Everybody, it's great to be back here again. And tomorrow it's Friday, Parshat Shemot, the beginning of a new book of the Torah. There's a lot to talk about the situation, and I think we'll leave that for another time. I'm sure you all want to hear about the hostage deal and some insights on that. But I think we'll leave that for maybe next week. We'll see how it goes forward in the coming days. I want to talk about just a famous story in the Talmud, in the Tractate of Ketubot, in 62b and 63a. It talks about the famous story of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was one of the greatest giants of sages of Israel of all time. He was a shepherd, and he was the shepherd of Kalba Savua. Kalba Savua was the name of the owner of a very wealthy man, the owner of the shepherds, the owner of the shepherd's flock that he was shepherding, and he had a daughter named Rachel. And Rachel put her eye on Rabbi Akiva, and she saw that he was a very modest individual. And she fell in love with him. And she said to Rabbi Akiva, if I agree to marry you, will you go and study Torah? Because Rabbi Akiva grew up as a child, not knowing much Torah. And he said yes. And when her father, this wealthy billionaire, hears that she wants to marry this poor shepherd that is shepherding his leading his flock, he was very upset about it, and he tells his daughter that he's going to dissolve any kind of gifts or properties, anything he wanted to give to his daughter. He's not going to allow her to have any benefit from it because of this marriage that he's very against. And they sort of elope together and they get married. And they live in total poverty. And in the wintertime, they were sleeping on hay. And Rabbi Akiva was taking the hay out of his wife's hair that was stuck in the hair. The Talmud describes, and Rabbi Akiva said, my dear, lovely Rachel, if I only had the money, I would buy you the city of Jerusalem of gold. And it's a kind of ornament that he wanted to purchase for her. It's a very powerful love story between them, and Elijah the prophet comes along and he stands by the gate of their home, whatever you want to call what they were living in, and he says, give me some straw please, give me some straw please, my wife just gave birth and we need straw to rent. So we see here, and this is what Rabbi Akiva says right away to his wife, he says, look at that, there are people that don't even have straw. It was Eliyahu wanted to gladden their hearts and make them happy in their situation, their lot. And Rachel goes and tells Rabbi Akiva, I want you to go and study Torah. And he goes. For 12 years he's studying Torah, and he comes back. And he's coming back with 12,000 students. And they're coming to greet Rabbi Akiva. Thousands of students are greeting him. And Rabbi Akiva's wife Rachel hears that Rabbi Akiva's back, is coming back, and she goes out to greet him. And her neighbors were telling him, we can lend you beautiful garments to get to dress up with and stuff like that, because she didn't. What did she have? And she said, my husband will recognize who I am. It's been 12 years. Can you imagine this? He goes out there and studies for 12 years. And she sees her husband, and she just falls at his feet and began kissing his feet literally. She was just so happy to see her husband. And the students that were surrounding Rabbi Akiva thought this was some sort of crazy lady. What is she doing here? They were trying to pull her away from him. And Rabbi Akiva said, leave her alone. Everything that I have and everything that you have is hers. Everything that we have is hers. Unbelievable remark that Rabbi Akiva makes. Everything that we have is hers. Fascinating. And the father, the happy story is that the father hears who's this great man who came to town, and is so happy to see that his son-in-law is this great rabbi, and then he agrees to give half his wealth to Rabbi Akiva and all that. The happy ending of that story, but the great lesson we learn here is that behind the Dmut, behind this great personality, one of the greatest leaders of Israel, Rabbi Akiva, his wife, a very modest, simple wife behind the scenes, but she's deserving of it all. And Rabbi Akiva actually was able to focus exactly on the truth, on that important lesson. And that's, in this week's portion, what I thought of stands out so clearly, a lesson that Rabbi Akiva learned from this week's portion, perhaps. In this week's portion, we see something very fascinating. After Moshe Rabbeinu has the vision in the burning bush, and God tells him, you must be the emissary to take out the people of Israel out of Egypt and all that, and Moshe Rabbeinu agrees, finally, after refusing and to take upon the mission with a lot of questions he had regarding the way he speaks and regarding they're going to believe him or not and all that, and he's ready to go finally. He takes his wife to get him all ready to go, and what happens? It says, behold, they were on the way, and God wanted to kill Moshe Rabbeinu. Why did God want to kill Moshe Rabbeinu? Because of the circumcision of his son Eliezer, which wasn't done, as we all know. And here comes Tzipporah, his wife, comes along, and she takes she didn't have a knife with her, but she had a flintstone. She was able to cut the foreskin and throw it on the feet, and saying that this blood of the circumcision has redeemed my husband. And the angel that tried to kill Moshe Rabbeinu now led up and left. And whatever it was fascinating that she comes along and saves Moshe Rabbeinu. We think about Moshe Rabbeinu, the great leader, the greatest prophet of all time, who comes along to give the Torah to Israel and does all this amazing things on behalf of the people of Israel, following, being the prophet that was sent to us by Hashem. And behind the scenes is Tzipporah, his wife, that everything is in her credit. If it wasn't for her being able to go out and quickly diagnose the situation, see what was the cause of why God wanted to kill Moshe Rabbeinu, she literally saves her husband's life, just like Rachel. Later on, Rabbi Akiva, which he learned from this, perhaps this is one of the places you can learn it right out in the Torah, that we don't pay attention. The whole emphasis in the Torah is on the major person, Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the one, right? To give us the Torah and the prophet and all that. We forget who's behind the scenes a lot. And here, Hashem, of course, is teaching that great lesson. Never forget. Although Moshe Rabbeinu, he's going to teach us Torah, he's going to do all that. But let's never forget who is behind the scenes, our dear wives, that they are quietly behind the scene, that they are, in their benefit, they're looking out for their husbands and making sure that they're able to fulfill their side of of their mission in this world. But their wives, if it wasn't for them, the husbands weren't able to do that. And God was saying, learn to respect your wives, to give credit to your wives, because everything that you have is theirs. Great lesson. Shabbat Shalom, Besarot Tovot, Yeshuot V'Nechamot.